Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Trying to get YouTube on here. That's horrible, Shayla. Okay, got you now. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is live. Uncle Nathaniel, Trina, Baker, hey. Betwabble, greetings. Grand rising, good rising, salutations, and all of the greetings in the morning. All right, y'all. Let me see something. Okay. All right, YouTube is ready to go. We up now. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Top of the day. Happy Saturday. It is January the 2nd, 2020, day 40 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 709, 709. I don't know why I always say the number out. I like spell out the number, just so you can see 709 days. Yeah, 709. All right, y'all. So today we're picking back up in Enoch. We read 96, 97, and 98. Then we're going to hop on over to the Legends of the Jews. Aunt Anita, top of the day, beautiful. Okay, y'all. So let's start with the Shema first. Open this up. All right. Remember the Shema is in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. It's really good to read the whole chapter. It's like 25 verses, but it goes through the whole thing. But I just pull out the meat portion of it without reading the whole chapter, just kind of summing it up. All right. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as YAHUAH, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, YAHUAH, our God, He is one God, and you shall love YAHUAH your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. Which means just talk to them all the time about it. Help it to become a part of them. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Remember, the hand is the action. Between the eyes is the thoughts. Remember, the thoughts, it drives the action. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and upon your gates. And YAHUAH commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear YAHUAH our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive, as it is to this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before YAHUAH our God, as He has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. So let's get started here today. Let's get going. All right, like I said, we're starting in Enoch 96. All right. Enoch 96. Wait and hope, you righteous, for suddenly shall sinners perish from before you, and you shall exercise dominion over them according to your will. In the day of suffering of sinners, your offspring shall be elevated and lifted up like eagles. Your nest shall be more exalted than that of the aves. You shall ascend and enter into the cavities of the earth, and into the clefts of the rocks forever, like conies from the sight of the wicked, who shall groan over you and weep like sirens. You shall not fear those who trouble you, for restoration shall be yours. A splendid light shall shine around you, and the voice of tranquility shall be heard from heaven. Woe to you sinners, for your wealth makes you resemble Kodeshim, or holy ones, but your hearts reproach you that you are sinners. This word shall testify against you for the remembrance of crime. Woe to you who feed upon the glory of the grain, and drink in the strength of the deepest spring, and in your power tread down the humble. Woe to you who drink water at pleasure, for suddenly shall you be recompensed, consumed, and withered, because you have forsaken the foundation of life. Woe to you who act inquisitously, fraudulently, and blasphemously. There shall be a remembrance against you for evil. Woe to you, powerful, who with power strike down the righteous. For the day of your destruction shall come, and at that very time many good days shall be the portion of the righteous at the period of your judgment. Enoch chapter 97. The righteous are confident that sinners will be disgraced and perish in the day of iniquity. You shall yourselves be conscious of it, for El Elyon will remember your destruction, and the angels shall rejoice over it. What will you do, sinners? And where will you fly in the day of judgment, when you shall hear the words of the prayer of the righteous? You are not like them who in this respect witness against you. You are associates of sinners. In those days shall the prayers of the righteous come up before YAHUAH, when the day of your judgment shall arrive, and every circumstance of your iniquity be related before the great and the Holy One. Your faces shall be covered with shame, while every deed strengthened by crime shall be rejected. Woe to you sinners who in the midst of the sea and on dry land, and against whom an evil record exists. Woe to you who squander silver and gold, not obtained in righteousness, and say, we are rich, possess wealth, and have acquired everything that we can desire. Now then will we do whatsoever we are disposed to do, for we have amassed silver, our barns are full, and the husbandmen of our families are like overflowing water. Like water shall your falsehood pass away, for your wealth will not be permanent, but shall suddenly ascend from you, because you have obtained it iniquitously. To extreme malediction shall you be delivered up. And now I swear to you, crafty as well as simple ones, that you, often contemplating the earth, you men clothe yourselves more elegantly than married women, and both together more so than a woman, and more colored than a girl, everywhere in majesty, in magnificence, in authority, and in silver. But gold, purple, honor, and wealth like water flow away. Erudition, therefore, and wisdom are not theirs. Thus shall they perish together with their riches, with all their glory, and with their honors, while with disgrace, with slaughter, and in extreme penury shall their spirits be thrust into a furnace of fire. I have sworn to you, sinners, that neither mountain nor hill has been or shall be subservient to woman. Neither in this way has crime been sent down to us upon the earth, but men of their own heads have invented it, and greatly shall those who give it efficiency be execrated. Barrenness shall not be previously inflicted on women, but on account of the work of her hands she shall die childless. I have sworn to you, sinners, by the Holy and Great One, that all your evil deeds are disclosed in the heavens, and that none of your oppressive acts are concealed in secret. Think not in your minds, neither say in your hearts, that every crime is not manifested and seen. In heaven it is daily written down before El Elyon. Henceforward shall it be manifested, for every act of oppression which you commit shall be daily recorded until the period of your condemnation. Woe to you, simple ones, for you shall perish in your simplicity. To the wise you will not listen, and that which is good you shall not obtain. Now therefore know that you are destined to the day of destruction, nor hope that sinners shall live, but in the process of time you shall die, for you are not marked for redemption, but are destined to the day of great judgment, to the day of distress and the extreme ignominy of your souls. Ooh, boy. Woe to you, obdurate in heart, who commit crime and feed on blood. Whence do you feed on good things, drink and are satisfied? Is it not because our Adonai, El Elyon, has abundantly supplied every good thing upon the earth? To you there shall not be peace. Woe to you who love the deeds of iniquity. Why do you hope for that which is good? Know that you shall be given up into the hands of the righteous, who shall cut off your necks, slay you, and show you no compassion. Woe to you who reject in the trouble of the righteous, for a grave shall not be dug for you. Woe to you who frustrate the word of the righteous, for to you there shall be no hope of life. Woe to you who write down the word of falsehood and the word of the wicked, for their falsehood they record, that they may hear and not forget folly. To them there shall be no peace, but they shall surely die suddenly. All right, last chapter for the day in the book of Enoch, Enoch chapter 98. Woe to them who act impiously, who laud and honor the word of falsehood. You have been lost in perdition, and have never led a virtuous life. Woe to you who has changed the words of integrity. They transgressed against the eternal Torah, and caused the heads of those who are not sinners to be trodden down upon the earth. In those days, O righteous, shall have been deemed worthy of having your prayers rise up in remembrance, and shall have them deposited in the testimony before the angels, that they may record the sins of the sinners in the presence of El Elyon. In those days the nations shall be overthrown, but the families of the nations shall rise again in the day of perdition. In those days they who become pregnant shall go forth, carry off their children, and forsake them. Their offspring shall slip from them, and while suckling them they shall forsake them. They shall never return to them, and never instruct their beloved. Again I swear to you, sinners, that crime has been prepared for the day of blood, which never ceases. They shall worship stones and engraved golden, silver, and wooden images. They shall worship impure spirits, devils, and every idol in temples, but no help shall be obtained for them. Their hearts shall become impious through their folly, and their eyes be blinded with the fear of their hearts. In their visionary dreams shall they be impious and superstitious, lying in all their actions, and worshiping a stone. Altogether shall they perish. But in those days blessed they be, to whom the word of wisdom is delivered, who point out and pursue the path of El Elyon. Remember, El Elyon is another name for Yah, just in case you didn't know. Who walk in the right. But in those days blessed shall they be, to whom the word of wisdom is delivered, who point out and pursue the path of El Elyon, who walk in the way of righteousness, and who act not impiously with the impious. They shall be saved. Woe to you who expand the crime of your neighbor, for in Sheol shall you be slain. Woe to you who lay the foundation of sin and deceit, and who are bitter on earth, for on it shall you be consumed. Woe to you who build your house by the labor of others, every part of which is constructed with brick and with the stone of crime. I tell you that you shall not obtain peace. Woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers, while your souls follow after idols, for to you there shall be no tranquility. Woe to them who commit iniquity and give aid to blasphemy, who slay their neighbor until the day of great judgment. For your glory shall fall, benevolence shall he put into your hearts, and the spirit of his wrath will stir you up, that every one of you may perish by the sword. Then shall all the righteous and the holy remember your crimes. That, my beautiful people, is the 3 chapters of Enoch for today. And we'll pick up that tomorrow. So we're going to hop right on over here to the Legends of the Jews, where we stopped yesterday. Oh, real quick too. Hold on, I ain't even got it pulled up. But anyway, I'm not sure if Aliyah is up here. You know what? I'll save my comments after I'm done reading. It's about the feast days coming up. All right. I don't know if he's here. I don't think he's here. He normally says, hey. I'm not sure who's here in the room, but it may not be him. But I'll save my comment to the end just in case he come in. But I just wanted to tell him he was right about the day yesterday, about the first day of the new year. It is not April. It is. That's what I said. I should pull up the chart. But anyway, he was right about the date yesterday. I had it all typed out, but I don't think he's here because he hasn't responded yet. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's do this. Because we read about this, but just in another section. I don't want to reread this. Let's get to... Okay. Well, let's skip over. I should read this part right here. Okay. We read that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to save us a little bit of time, y'all. I should have looked at it yesterday. Mine didn't. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to... Okay, let's jump right over here. Okay, so we're in volume 1. And we're going to read here, jump to the section where it says the last years of Abraham. And if you have the same size book, it's page 94. But if it's a smaller book, I'm not quite sure which page it is, but it's the section that says the last years of Abraham. It's probably it's just a couple pages over from what we was reading yesterday. And it's towards the end of that section. So we're going to read that. The last years of Abraham. All right, y'all. Rebekah first saw Isaac as he was coming from the way of Beer-lahai-roi, the dwelling place of Hagar, where he had gone after the death of his mother, for the purpose of reuniting his father with Hagar, or as she was also called, Keturah. Did y'all know that? Have y'all ever heard people with the argument that after Sarah died, Abraham got married again? Her name was Keturah. You actually see Keturah in Genesis. It actually has her name. If I'm not mistaken, you can also read it in Jasher or Jubilees. But anyway, it's there. But did you know that Keturah was Hagar? I'll read that again. I thought it was a whole different woman, but no, it was Hagar, Ishmael's mom. Yeah, okay, right? Remember the maid servant who got into it with Sarah, kicked out? She gave her to Abraham, had a baby, Ishmael. No, that is not the promise y'all said. I said you was going to have a child by Sarah. But when she got pregnant and she saw Sarah still wasn't pregnant, so y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, I just wanted to give you a few more details. Okay, listen. Rebekah first saw Isaac as he was coming from the way of Beer-lahai-roi, the dwelling place of Hagar, whither he had gone after the death of his mother, for the purpose of reuniting his father with Hagar, or as she was also called, Keturah. Hagar bore him 6 sons, who, however, did scant honor to their father, for they were all idolaters. Abraham, therefore, during his own lifetime, sent them away from the presence of Isaac, that they might not be singed by Isaac's flame, that they may not be singed by Isaac's flame, and gave them the instruction to journey eastward as far as possible. There he built a city for them, surrounded by an iron wall, so high that the sun could not shine into the city. But Abraham provided them with huge gems and pearls, their luster more brilliant than the light of the sun, which will be used in the Messianic time, when the moon shall be confounded and the sun ashamed. Also, Abraham taught them the black art, wherewith they held sway over demons and spirits. Did y'all also know that King Solomon also held, like, what it says? They held sway over demons and spirits. Let me tell y'all. Do y'all know? I'm about to give y'all an example, which I just realized the other day. I'm like, oh snap! Okay, so y'all heard of Masons, right? Freemasons, the whole secret society. Now now I'm not sure what they teach them about the ring that they get with the the G on it, the geometry sign and the ruler and the pen and stuff on it. But did you know that is a representation? I mean, you may know, you probably heard it, but it's a representation of King Solomon's ring. It was a ring that YAHUAH had given to King Solomon, and while he had this ring on, it was like a point of reference for him, and everyone knew. It was almost like, you know how it was like the king's ring who sealed it. His ring carried so much authority and power that even like when we get there, I want to read like every section of Solomon as we get close to him, and we're reading about Saul and King David and everything. We're gonna flow over into that, but there's a nice huge section about King Solomon and everything that happened. And as I was going through this over the last couple weeks, I'm like, wait a minute, this is why their symbol is the ring and stuff, because of all the power that King Solomon had and all the wisdom he exerted, not just in our realm, but even having sway over the demon spirits and all the magic arts and everything that was going on during that time, So I don't know a lot of details based on what the Freemasons do here, but the little bit that I do know, as I was going through these books of King Solomon, I realized that's where they pulled all that information from. And some of them, I don't know. Maybe they do know, maybe they don't. Like I said, I'm not one, just based on what I've learned from other people, what they shared with me, and some of the videos I've seen, I could clearly tell all of this was pulled from the life of King Solomon. They just kind of made use of it in their what you want to call it, in their, I don't want to say club, or their whole thing, the whole Freemasons. Y'all get what I'm saying? Okay. Also, Abraham taught them the black art, wherewith they held sway over demons and spirits. It is from this city in the east that Lebanon, Balaam, and Balaam's father Beor derived their sorceries. Epher, one of the grandsons of Abraham and Keturah, invaded Libya with an armed force and took possession of the country. From this Epher, the whole land of Africa has its name. Aram is also a country made habitable by a kinsman of Abraham. In his old age, Terah contracted a new marriage with Pelilah, and from his union sprang a son, Zobah, who was the father in turn of 3 sons. The oldest of these, Aram, was exceedingly rich and powerful, and the old home in Haran sufficed not for him and his kinsmen, the sons of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. Aram and his brethren and all that belonged to him therefore departed from Haran, and they settled in a vale and built themselves a city there, which they called Aram Zobah, to perpetuate the name of the father and his firstborn son. Another Aram Naharaim, on the Euphrates, was built by Aram, son of Kemuel, a nephew of Abraham. Its real name was Petor, after the son of Aram, but it is better known as Aram Naharaim. The descendants of Kesed, another nephew of Abraham, a son of his brother Nahor, established themselves opposite to Shinar, where they founded the city of Kesed, the city which the Chaldees are called Kasdim. Although Abraham knew full well that Isaac preserved his paternal blessing beyond all his sons, yet he withheld it from him, that no hostile feelings be aroused among his descendants. He spake and said, I am but flesh and blood, here today and tomorrow in the grave. What was I able to do for my children, I have done. Henceforth, let come what YAHUAH desires to do in his word. And it happened that immediately after the death of Abraham, YAHUAH himself appeared unto Isaac and gave him his blessing. When the day of the death of Abraham drew near, YAHUAH said to Michael, Arise and go to Abraham and say to him, Thou shalt depart from life, so that he might set his house in order before he died. And Michael went and came to Abraham and found him sitting before his oxen for plowing. Abraham, seeing Michael, but not knowing who he was, saluted him and said to him, Sit down a little while, and I will order a beast to be bought, and we will go to my house, that thou mayest rest with me, for it is toward evening, and arise in the morning, and go whithersoever thou wilt. And Abraham called one of his servants, and said to him, Go, bring me a beast, and that the stranger may sit upon it, for he is wearied with his journey. But Michael said, I abstain from ever sitting upon any four-footed beast. Let us walk, therefore, till we reach the house. On their way to the house, they passed a huge tree, and Abraham heard a voice from its branches singing, Holy art thou, because thou hast kept the purpose for which thou wast sent. Abraham hid the mystery in his heart, thinking that the stranger did not hear it. Arrived at his house, he ordered the servants to prepare a meal, and while they were busy with their work, he called his son Isaac and said to him, Arise and put water in the vessel, that we may wash the feet of the stranger. And he bore it as he was commanded. And Abraham said, I perceive that in this basin I shall never wash again the feet of any man coming to us as a guest. Hearing this, Isaac began to weep, and Abraham, seeing his son weep, also wept, and Michael, seeing them weep, wept also, and the tears of Michael fell into the water and became precious stones. Before sitting down at the table, Michael arose and went out for a moment, as if to ease nature, and ascended to heaven in the twinkling of an eye, and stood before YAHUAH and said to him, Lord and Master, let thy power know that I am unable to remind that righteous man of his death, for I have not seen upon the earth a man like him, compassionate, hospitable, righteous, truthful, devout, refraining from every evil deed. Then YAHUAH said to Michael, Go down to my friend Abraham, and whatever he may say to thee, that do thou also. And whatever he may eat, eat thou also with him. And I will cast the thought of the death of Abraham into the heart of Isaac his son in a dream, and Isaac will relate the dream, and thou shalt interpret it, and he himself will know his end. And Michael said, Lord of all the heavenly spirits, And Michael said, Lord, all the heavenly spirits are incorporeal, and neither eat nor drink, and this man has set before me a table with an abundance of all good things, earthly and corruptible. Now, Lord, what shall I do? YAHUAH answered him, Go down to him and take no thought for this, for when thou sittest down with him, I will send upon thee a devouring spirit, and it will consume out of thy hands and through thy mouth all that is on the table. Then Michael went into the house of Abraham, and they ate and drank and were merry. And when the supper had ended, Abraham prayed after his custom, and Michael prayed with him, and each lay down to sleep upon his couch in one room, while Isaac went to his chamber, lest he be troublesome to the guests. About the 7th hour of the night, Isaac awoke and came to the door of his father's chamber, crying out and saying, Open, Father, that I may touch thee before they take thee away from me. And Abraham wept together with his son, and when Michael saw them weep, he wept likewise. And Sarah, hearing the weeping, called forth from her bedchamber, saying, My lord Abraham, why is this weeping? Has the stranger told thee of thy brother's son Lot, that he is dead? Or has aught befallen us? Michael answered and said to her, Nay, my sister Sarah, it is not as thou sayest, but thy son Isaac, methinks, beheld a dream, and he came to us weeping, and we, seeing him, were moved in our hearts and wept. Sarah, hearing Michael speak, knew straightway that it was an angel of YAHUAH, one of the 3 angels they had entertained in their house once before, and therefore she made a sign to Abraham to come out toward the door to inform him of what she knew. Abraham said, Thou hast perceived well, for I too, when I washed his feet, knew in my heart that they were the feet that I had washed at the oak of Mamre when they went to save Lot. Abraham, returning to his chamber, made Isaac relate his dream, which Michael interpreted to them, saying, Thy son Isaac has spoken truth, for thou shalt go and be taken up into the heavens, but thy body shall remain on earth until 7,000 ages are fulfilled, for then all flesh shall arise. So, if we can calculate what year we are in now. Now, if you listen to the Jewish people, we are in year like 59 something. Don't quote me on that. But I think it's 59. But I've seen in another place that they're calculating the years like in the 6,000th year, like their count. I don't even know how they're coming up with that count yet. Like, I really don't. But after the 7,000 years, that's when everything is going to be turned and made right? Okay, so I won't talk anymore on that because I truly do not understand how they're calculating that time. Okay. Which Michael, hold on, I'm skipping right to the middle of the sentence. Abraham, returning to his chamber, made Isaac relate his dream, which Michael interpreted to them, saying, Thy son Isaac has spoken the truth, for thou shalt go and be taken up into the heavens, but thy body shall remain on earth until 7,000 ages are fulfilled, for then all flesh shall arise. Now therefore, Abraham, set thy house in order, for thou wast heard what is decreed concerning thee. Abraham answered, Now I know thou art the angel of YAHUAH, and was sent to take my soul. But I will not go with thee, but do thou whatever thou art commanded. Michael returned to heaven and told YAHUAH about Abraham's refusal to obey his summons, and he was again commanded to go down and admonish Abraham not to rebel against YAHUAH, who had bestowed many blessings upon him. And he reminded him that no one who has come from Adam and Eve can escape death, and that YAHUAH, in his great kindness toward him, did not permit the sickle of death to meet him, but sent his chief captain Michael to him. Wherefore then, he ended, Hast thou said to the chief captain, I will not go with thee? When Michael delivered these exhortations to Abraham, he saw that it was futile to oppose the will of YAHUAH, and he consented to die, but wished to have one desire of his fulfilled while he was still alive. He said to Michael, I beseech thee, Lord, if I must depart from my body, I desire to be taken up in my body, that I may see the creatures that YAHUAH has created in heaven and on earth. Michael went up into heaven and spoke before YAHUAH concerning Abraham, and YAHUAH answered Michael. First of all, let me just say, it's freaking awesome that they can just, I'll be right back, Abraham, step out the door and pop right back up to heaven. You know how they did that, right? Because we talked about it before. Because they know the ineffable name of Yah, right? Like, we ain't had that revealed to us yet, clearly, because we're bound here to this realm unless YAHUAH takes us in a dream or something. I mean, I guess that's just as good. But to be able to, I mean, granted, he was immortal, so I guess they're afforded more privileges than those of us sons of the dirt, sons and daughters of the dirt, have right now, until, I guess, we go through this process of regeneration where our lives are completely holy as YAHUAH. We may not be perfect, but we strive to be holy in all that we do, and I'm not too sure. Well, I can't really say, because those who are, at least from my knowledge, they ain't really giving out their information all willy-nilly to the masses, because the masses can't handle it. And if somebody did so much hear it, but Yahuwah, he hears and he sees all things. So I'm sure if somebody was close enough who didn't know, was close enough to somebody who would speak the ineffable name of Yah, I'm almost 100% that Yahuwah would make that person who is not ready for it deaf at the moment, or distract him where he could not hear it. So that name is not getting out to those who are not ready for it. Like, y'all can't come up here. Y'all tearing up the house I left down there for y'all. Y'all not coming up here tearing up my place. Like, seriously, I think about this stuff, right? Like, he just go, I'll be right back. Step outside though. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. So this is what Abraham just says. I'd be thinking about all this stuff. I'm like, wouldn't that be awesome? I strive to be as holy as Abraham was. I really do. I ain't perfect, but I know sometimes they be like, you know what? We might need to take this girl today because she's doing the most. Not that I be doing stuff that's bad, but sometimes I just be like, I don't know. I be asking all kinds of questions to y'all. I'm like, look, I don't really understand this. And forgive me ahead of time if I speak out of turn. I'm not really trying to, but I just really don't understand. I need you to help me understand, y'all. So seriously, I really, you know how y'all have them kids that just keep asking them questions, but why? But why? But why? And they're truly like, they're not, little kids don't do that to annoy you. They're really inquisitive. And that's how I am. Some of the stuff that I'm finding out now, I'm like, what? Really? How does that work? Really? That was hidden from us? We was able to do that before? How? How do we do that now? Can I do that now? Like, seriously, that's how I am. Like, all the time. Like, I'm talking like all the time to y'all. Okay. Michael went up into heaven, and he spake before Yahuwah concerning Abraham. And Yahuwah answered Michael, go and take up Abraham in the body, and show him all things. And whatever he shall say to thee, do to him as my friend. All right. The archangel Michael went down and took Abraham upon a chariot of the cherubim, and lifted him up into the air of heaven, and led him upon the cloud together with 60 angels. And Abraham ascended upon the chariot over all the earth. He saw all the things that are below the earth, both good and bad. Looking down upon the earth, he saw a man committing adultery with a wedded woman. And turning to Michael, he said, send fire from heaven and consume them. Straightway there came down fire and consumed them, for Yahuwah had commanded Michael to do whatsoever Abraham should ask him to do. He looked again, and he saw thieves digging through a house. And Abraham said, let wild beasts come out of the desert and tear them into pieces. And immediately wild beasts came out of the desert and devoured them. Again he looked down, and he saw people preparing to commit murder. And he said, let the earth be open and swallow them. And as he spoke, the earth opened and swallowed them alive. Then Yahuwah spoke to Michael, turn away Abraham to his own house, and let him not go round the whole earth, because he has no compassion on side. He said, listen, Michael, belay my last. Listen here. Take Abraham to his own house. He can kill everybody out here. He said he has no compassion on the sinners. Hey, Mom, I'm going to read this again. Listen. Okay. Okay. I ain't going to go all the way back up. But that was funny. Okay, hold on. I'll read this last one. Again, he looked down, and he saw people preparing to commit murder. And he said, let the earth open and swallow them. And as he spoke, the earth opened and swallowed them alive. Then Yahuwah spoke to Michael, turn away Abraham to his own house, and let him not go round the whole earth, because he has no compassion on sinners. But I will have compassion on sinners, that they may turn and live and repent of their sins and be saved. Oh my gosh. Right? Only if they knew that them dying early in their sins was because of Abraham. Yahuwah said, wait, excuse me, Michael, belay my last. Stop him from going around the whole earth. Just take him so he can see his own people. Boy, Abraham was getting rid of him. I'm telling you. He said, we need some immediate justice right now. Get him, get her. Oh, she ran and jumped out that window. Get her too before she get too far. I'm like, whoo. He was like, Michael, psst, psst, hey, stop. Don't take him around the whole earth. Stop right there. Just take him to his boat. Take him, let him see his own people. So Michael turned the chariot and bore Abraham to the place of judgment of all souls. Here he saw two gates, the one broad and the other narrow. The narrow gate, that of the just, which leads to life, that they may enter through it to go into paradise. The broad gate is that of sinners, which leads to destruction and eternal punishment. Then Abraham wept, saying, Woe is me, what shall I do? For I am a man big of body, and how shall I be able to enter in by the narrow gate? Michael answered and said to Abraham, Fear not, nor grieve, for thou shalt enter in by it unhindered, and all they who are like thee. Abraham perceived that a soul was adjudged to be sent in the midst. Okay. Abraham perceived that a soul was adjudged to be set in the midst, asked Michael the reason for it, and Michael answered, because the judge found its sins and its righteousness equal, he neither committed to it judgment nor to be saved. Abraham said to Michael, Let us pray for his soul and see whether YAHUAH will hear us. And when they rose up from their prayer, Michael informed Abraham that the soul was saved by the power and was taken by an angel and carried up to paradise. And Abraham said to Michael, Let us yet call upon YAHUAH and supplicate his compassion and entreat his mercy for the souls of the sinners, whom I formerly in my anger cursed and destroyed, whom the earth devoured, and the wild beasts tore in pieces, and the fire consumed through my words. Now he thinking about the people he told Michael to go ahead and take out of here. He said, wait a minute, okay, so Dana said, I am Abraham, I am he. I know, right, Dana? I'd be like, yeah, get him, get her. I remember what she did back in the day. Get her too. But he said something here that I used to always think about, right? Okay, so when people die in all different types of ways. But I think about people who are of age, who can tell right from wrong, and they die like suddenly, like something happens, I don't know, maybe like an atomic bomb hit or Pearl Harbor or something, like they say that they didn't come to the knowledge of Yah yet, or hadn't made a decision whether they were going to live righteous or wicked or whatever. People pretty much in the floor stuff, right? So I used to think, I'm like, okay, well, what happens to people if they die suddenly? Clearly, Yah knows more than we do, but if we knew them from what we perceived, if we think that they died without Yah, I used to always wonder, when they take their last breath, are they immediately, boom, sent to judgment? Or is there still a period of time where we can pray for them and before YAHUAH sends them to their final destination? That's something that I always used to wonder. So when people that I knew passed away, like when I found out, especially if it was in like the hours of the same day or something, I will always still pray for them, just in case by chance that there is a period of time, which I found out there is a period of time. And I believe, I remember correctly, there's a period of 7 days of what we perceive to be 7 days, like a week from the time you take your last breath up until the end of this 7-day period, whatever that amounts to in eternity in time. But according to us, how we perceive it, it'll be 7 days. So when they take their last breath, there'll be a 7-day period. And I believe it's either in the book of Ezra or it's in the book of Baruch. And I don't remember if it was like first or second Baruch or third and fourth Ezra. But that's the 7-day period where YAHUAH was speaking to Ezra, and he was saying for 7 days after the soul departs the body, they're taken back through their life, and they get to see the truth of everything about earth, like all the lies that we've been indoctrinated with or whatever things. Everything is going to be made open, and they're going to see the truth as it really is, with all the lies and all the cover of darkness removed. They get to see the truth about everything in this life, why they live, and like from the beginning of time up to the end, they get to see that, right? Could that be why Jewish people Sir and Shiva? What? Did it truncate your last couple words, Mom? People. Could that be why Jewish people set? Okay, type the whole sentence again because it's breaking up. You said, could that be why Jewish people set? What's that last part? I don't understand it. It says, in Shiva, SP, exclamation. Oh, wait. Could that be why Jewish people sat in Shiva? Is that what you said? I don't think I understand what you're saying. Could that be why Jewish people sat in Shiva? Trina, look. Trina said, I always wondered if Tim made it. Maybe he did. When I first, when the news came on, because I was woke when the news, I'll never forget that night. Me and James had just come into the house and we turned the news on and they said this, and I knew in my spirit, they hadn't showed his face or anything, but I knew that they were talking about Tim. And I'm like, and we both, I'll never forget that day because we had bags in our hands and James just dropped to the chair and he dropped to the couch and the bags hit the floor. And I stood there in shock. I was like, wait a minute. It's like we knew before they even said his name or anything, we knew that was Tim. And sure enough, it was confirmed to us because it was a Saturday. I'll never forget that day. It was a Saturday night when we came in. And we went to church next day. And when we pulled up and we seen some of the members from Calvary in the parking lot crying, we immediately knew that, yes, this was Tim. So, but yeah. But when I heard that, the whole reason for me saying that was when we heard that, and like I said, I knew within me that was him. Something shooketh my soul, but I began to pray for him just in case, because we know Tim. He wasn't full walking. He young guy. They still hanging out with their friends and stuff. And I often wondered at that point, because of how he passed, I used to ask God, I'm like, Father, why? Why didn't he have more time? And did he die in sin, or was it a freak accident? I don't know, but I did. I prayed now. I literally, for days. That was before I knew about this 7-day period when people depart. Shucks, every time I thought about him, I prayed for him. I was like, Father, just in case he wasn't 100% ready to come to be in your presence, I said, please forgive him of all his sins, whatever they may be. Seriously, I did. Okay, so back to Mama. Could that be why Jewish people sat in Shiva? Shiva, literally 7, is the week-long mourning period in Judaism for the first-degree relatives. The ritual is referred to as sitting Shiva in English. Okay, now I understand. It could be. Because I didn't know that. And thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany posted over here, too. Jewish people sit in Shiva for 7 days or something. That's probably why I couldn't get what you were saying. I did not know that. Which is probably why. Forgive my ignorance, but who is him? Or who was just talking about Tim is are you, first before I say this, Uncle Nathaniel, are you talking about who we're just talking about, Tim? I'll wait for your answer. Or if you say yes, Trina, you can answer. I think that's what he's talking about. I think he's talking about who we were just talking about, Trina. There may be a little lag there. It's a long lag. Okay, for the sake of time, if you were talking about Tim is Trina's husband. What was Trina's husband? Okay, if Tim, okay, yeah. Tim was Trina's husband at the time. So, he was a really good friend of ours. Yeah. Don't get me all teary-eyed thinking about it, because that really hit us hard. And they hit James hard, that hit James hard, All right. Okay. Let me find my spot, y'all. Okay, so yeah, this might be, I'm going to have to look a little bit. Yeah, Trina, Uncle Nathaniel, Trina responded to you. Okay. Yeah, so maybe that they got me thinking now. I'm gonna go look into this the sitting in Shiva thing. I'm gonna go look into this after we get off of here. Like, it could be, I'm gonna have to go open this up. I'm really intrigued now. This could be why, right? I don't know. That's good though. Okay, let me go back to reading, y'all. Okay. Woe is me, what shall I do? For I am a man big of body, and how shall I be able to enter in by the narrow gate? Michael answered and said to Abraham, Fear not, nor grieve, for thou shalt enter by it unhindered, and all they who are like thee. Abraham, perceiving that a soul was adjudged to be set in the midst, asked Michael the reason for it, and Michael answered, Because the judge found its sins and its righteousness equal, he neither committed to it judgment nor to be saved. And Abraham said to Michael, Let us pray for this soul, and see whether YAHUAH will hear us. And when they rose up from their prayer, Michael informed Abraham that the soul was saved by the power, and was taken by an angel and carried up to paradise. Abraham said to Michael, Let us yet call upon YAHUAH and supplicate his compassion, and entreat his mercy for the souls of the sinners whom I formerly, in my anger, cursed and destroyed, whom the earth devoured, and the wild beasts tore in pieces, and the fire consumed through my words. Now I know that I have sinned before YAHUAH our God. After the joint prayer of the archangel and Abraham, there came a voice from heaven saying, Abraham, Abraham, I have hearkened to thy voice and thy prayer, and I forgave thee thy sin and those whom thou thinkest that I destroyed. I have called up and brought them into life by my exceeding kindness, because for a season I have requited them in judgment, and those whom I destroy living upon the earth I will not requite in death. When Michael brought Abraham back to his house, they found Sarah dead. Not seeing what had become of Abraham, she was consumed with grief and gave up her soul. Though Michael had fulfilled Abraham's wish and had shown him all the earth and the judgment and recompense, he still refused to surrender his soul to Michael. And the archangel again ascended to heaven and said unto YAHUAH, Thus speaks Abraham, I will not go with thee, and I refrain from laying my hands on him, because from the beginning he was thy friend, and he has done all things pleasing in thy sight. There is no man like him on earth, not even Job, the wondrous man. Oh. But when the day of death of Abraham drew nigh, YAHUAH commanded Michael to adorn death with great beauty, and send him thus to Abraham, that he might not see him with his eyes. While sitting under the oak of Mamre, Abraham perceived a flashing of light and a smell of sweet odor, and turning around, he saw Death coming toward him in great glory and beauty. And Death said to Abraham, Think not, Abraham, that this beauty is mine, or that I come thus to every man. Nay, but if anyone is righteous like thee, I thus take a crown and come to him. But if he is a sinner, I come in great corruption, and out of their sins I make a crown for my head. And I shake them with great fear, so that they are dismayed. And Abraham said to him, Thou art indeed he that is called... No, that was a question. And Abraham said to him, Art thou indeed he that is called Death? He answered and said, I am the bitter name. But Abraham answered, I will not go with thee. And Abraham said to Death, Oh, he wanted to see it. Okay. And Abraham said to Death, Show us thy corruption. And Death revealed his corruption, showing two heads. The one had the face of a serpent, and the other head was like a sword. All the servants of Abraham, looking at the fierce men of Death, died. But Abraham prayed to YAHUAH, and he raised them up. As the looks of Death were not able to cause Abraham's soul to depart from him, YAHUAH removed the soul of Abraham as in a dream. And the archangel Michael took it up into heaven. After great praise and glory had been given to YAHUAH by the angels who bore Abraham's soul, and after Abraham bowed down to worship, Then came the voice of Yahuwah, saying thus, Take my friend Abraham into paradise, where are the tabernacles of my righteous ones, and abodes of my saints Isaac and Jacob in his bosom, where there is no trouble, nor grief, nor sighing, but peace and rejoicing and life unending. Abraham's activity did not cease with his death. As he interceded in this world for sinners, so will he intercede for them in the world to come. On the day of judgment, he will sit at the gate of hell, and he will not suffer those who kept the law of circumcision to enter therein. All right, y'all. We have 54 minutes, but it's this last little section about this, and we're going to go ahead and read it. Okay, the Patron of Hebron, because then it goes into the section about Jacob, so we're going to go ahead and finish this little part. Once upon a time, some Jews lived in Hebron, few in number, but pious and good, and particularly hospitable. When strangers came to the cave of Machpelah to pray there, the inhabitants of the place fairly quarreled with each other for the privilege of entertaining the guests, and the one who carried off the victory rejoiced as though he had found great spoil. On the eve of the Day of Atonement, it appeared that, in spite of all their efforts, the dwellers at Hebron could not secure the 10th man needed for public divine service, and they feared that they would have none on the holy day. Toward the evening, when the sun was about to sink, they described an old man with a silver white beard, bearing a sack upon his shoulder, his raiment tattered, and his feet badly swollen from much walking. They ran to meet him, took him to one of the houses, and gave him food and drink, and after supplying him with new white garments, they all together went to the synagogue for worship. Asked what his name was, the stranger replied, Abraham. At the end of the fast, the residents of Hebron cast lots for the privilege of entertaining the guests. Fortune favored the beadle who... Hold on. Make sure I'm reading the sentence right. Okay. Fortune favored the beadle who, the envy of the rest, bore his guest away to his house. On the way, he suddenly disappeared, and the beadle could not find him anywhere. It's saying beadle. I think it's talking about the man. Beadle. Beadle. I think I said that right. Okay. In vain, all the Jews of the place went on a quest for him. In their sleepless night, spent in searching, had no result. The stranger could not be found. But no sooner had the beadle lain down toward the morning, weary and anxious to snatch some sleep, then he saw the lost guest before him, his face luminous as lightning, and his garments magnificent and studded with gems, radiant as the sun. Before the beadle, stunned by fright, could open his... Before the beadle, stunned by fright, could open his mouth, the stranger spake and said, I am Abraham, the Hebrew, your ancestor, who rests here in the cave of Machpelah. When I saw how grieved you were at not having the number of men prescribed for a public service, I came forth to you. Have no fear, rejoice and be merry of heart. On another occasion, Abraham granted his assistance to the people of Hebron. The Lord of the city was a heartless man who oppressed the Jews sorely. One day he commanded them to pay a large sum of money into his coffers, the whole sum in uniform coins, all stamped with the same year. It was but a pretext to kill the Jews. He knew that his demand was an impossible fulfillment. The Jews proclaimed a fast and day of public prayer, on which to supplicate Yahuwah that he turn aside the sword suspended above them. The night following, the beadle in a dream saw an awe-inspiring old man who addressed him in the following words, Up quickly, hasten to the gate of the court, where lies the money you need. Oh, may y'all supply that in the same way to some of us. Oh my gosh, right? Shabbat Shalom, Quentin. Up quickly, hasten to the gate of the court where lies the money you need. I am your father Abraham. I have beheld the affliction wherewith the Gentiles oppress you, but YAHUAH has heard your groans. In great terror the beetle arose, but he saw no one, yet he went to the spot designated by the vision, and he found the money and took it to the congregation, telling his dream at the same time. Amazed, they counted the gold, precisely the amount required of them by the prince, no more and no less. They surrendered the sum to him, and he who had considered compliance with his demand impossible recognized now that YAHUAH is with the Jews, and thenceforth they found favor in his eyes. Now we can clearly see now this happened because they was literally all about to die. So a miracle had to happen, right? A miracle had to happen for them. So a lot of times, sometimes we get ourselves in binds with money and stuff, and we pray for money to drop out of nowhere, but it never happens that way. Not saying that YAHUAH won't call somebody at your time of need to come and supply something, but in great sums like this, like what we would consider to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, that don't happen for most of us. Rarely any of us ever. And simply because our lives probably are not in danger, and the huge lump sum of money that we need at that moment is probably something that we did out of our own foolishness to cause this to happen. Now we all discombobulated and all over the place because we might lose something like our house or a vehicle get repoed or something like that. But that's something that we brought on ourselves because of probably lack of self-control. But what was brought on them had nothing to do with them. The man that ruled over that kingdom at that time, it was all his doing, and he was seeking to find a way to annihilate YAHUAH's people. So a miracle had to happen. It's the same thing we see with Queen Esther. It was another thing. The plot was to annihilate YAHUAH's people. So we see miracles like this happen when the situation behind the scenes that we can't quite understand, but with YAHUAH, see, this is for your complete termination. They're trying to kill you all. Then that's when those type of miracles show up, right? So, but some of the other miracles that we need is probably because lack of self-control and our own ignorance that we brought it upon ourselves. So, with that being said, y'all, I am done running my mouth. All right, real quick, just to recap, it is Saturday. Happy Saturday, everybody. It is January the 2nd, 2021. Did I say 2020 earlier? I hope I said 2021. Okay, just in case I didn't. It's January 2nd, 2021. Day 40 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 709. We read Enoch 96 through 98, and we just read that portion from the Legends of the Jews about the ending days of Abraham. Remember, I'll post the page numbers and all that stuff in the description box. But also, I don't think here, because he normally says something. But just in case he comes in and watches later, and I said it earlier, yesterday when we were talking about the feast days coming up, he mentioned, like I said, I think he said April the 15th. I'm not able, like the conversations, like the live chat, for some reason, it doesn't always pop back up. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But I know it's a way you can look when you go back to YouTube and watch a video that's no longer live. It has like a live chat box where you can go through and you can open that and you can see the live, well, it's not live anymore, but it's playing back the live chat as it was coming in. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I don't always see that, and I try to go in there and respond to some of it. I know once the video closes, you can't respond anymore. Nothing else is added to the live chat. So I go to the comment section. I be trying to tag people like Facebook, but that never works. So I just hope they kind of come back and look at the comments, and I'll respond to something that they said. But in a live chat, it'll let you like type in their name so you can respond directly to them, but not so in the comment section unless they first leave a comment. Then I can go to their comment and respond to them. But I said all that to say, yesterday he was right, I was wrong. We were talking about the first day of the new month, and he actually said the day right. But as I was thinking, I gave him the date of the actual Passover, which is, I said, because in the video I said I think it's the 27th, but he gave the right day of the first day of the first month, which is directly after the new moon day. New moon, we'll see the new moon, which is the first new moon of the year, happen March the 14th, and then the 15th begins the weekly count, which the Sabbath will begin to fall on that same day of the week that the new moon fell on. But we know 14 days later it is Passover, which is also the full moon, right? And so that's the day I gave. He actually gave the day. He gave the right day. I just want to say that he gave the right day of the first day of the first month of this new year, right? Meaning I'm sorry, y'all. Make sure I'm not getting tongue tied. The first month of the year, as YAHUAH has taught us how to reckon the years, always begins in the spring. Like we just began the new year, the calendar new year, in the winter time. Like how you begin life at death, right? Spring is always the beginning of new things. Like, and even if you coincide the seasons to the seasons of life, it's the same thing. You got infancy and adolescence, that's the springtime of life. Then you got the teenage years, hot fire, it's the summer. And then you got the fall time, you got like the early adulthood, probably consisting of like the 20s and the 30s, and I would even venture to say the 40s, and everything after that would be the winter time. As you're getting older, you know, life begins in a cycle of life. You grow and then you begin to wither and pass away. So that's the winter time of life, which is, I would say, probably above 50. It could be later than that, but let's just, for the sake of conversation, let's say 50 on to the grave, right? So that's what we was talking about. So he actually calculated that right. So if you want to keep up with that, there's 2 apps that I use, and I'll post them down there just in case you don't have, but I know I mentioned quite a few times, but these 2 are the most accurate. Now the apps between themselves, they are like a day off from one another, and the one that I that calculates the way I do is the World's Last Chance Calendar. It's called, if you type it into the Play Store, is WLC. It stands for World's Last Chance Calendar. But in there, it not only does it have, it's tracking what we can actually see in the sky. And like I said, these are the ones that I see that are like on point with what I'm seeing in the sky. Like it's like, and it's updated real time. It's the Moon app and WLC Calendar. But they are like right there. And the difference between the WLC calendar is it also, you can look at the Gregorian calendar and you can look at the lunisolar calendar. Up at the top, you can switch between the 2. That's why I have both of them, and I kind of compare the 2. But it shows the lunisolar calendar, which is the calendar that we're on to follow the years and days and months like YAHUAH teaches us to. And he has it set in there. Well, it could be a sheet. They have it set up to where you can see that as it would be as YAHUAH has set time. And guess what? The days never shift, right? Because it's been like that from the beginning of time. So you always see. So in the lunar solar calendar, the way they did it, the Sabbaths always fall on the 8th day of the month. I put it in my phone. I didn't write it in here. But anyway, they always, you got the new moon that always falls on, is the head of the month. Then you have the Sabbaths that always fall on the 8th, it's like the 8th, the 20, I may get these days wrong, y'all. And I'll post, since I'm already talking about it, I'll go back and I'll post it in the comment section just in case you want to go look at it. It's like the 8th, the 22nd, the 28th. It's like okay, so it's the new moon, the 8th, the 22nd, the 28th. But anyway, it always lines up like that perfectly, a perfect 52 week year. But if you switch back to the Gregorian calendar, you will see that the days always shift. That's why it would seem that the Sabbaths rotate throughout the week. And when I found that, I was like, my theory has been proven. What I've been saying all this time, and somebody lined it up, and I can see the difference and watch it rotate. They're not actually rotating, but it seems to rotate because we're using the Gregorian calendar and not the actual calendar YAHUAH has set us on. I hope I didn't screw y'all up, but I hope y'all get what I'm trying to say. I think I talked about it enough where if you've been here for a while, you understand what I'm saying. That's why we stopped celebrating the Sabbath Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, because ain't no way possible if we're doing it. It's possible if we didn't have the Gregorian calendar, if it stayed the same, then it would be the same. It would be the 6th day every day. It would be the 7th day every day of the week where we rest. That's the Sabbath, right? But because you got the different days, and then they added in the leap year, and they removed some days, you got all these different days and stuff where they added and subtracted time, where it shifts. It's a good thing. Think about your birthday. Your birthday is never on the same day of the week 2 years in a row. If it's Sunday this year, next week is going to be Monday or Tuesday, just depending on the Florida cycle, because it skips a day. I think like every other year, and then it skips like 2 days. So one day, like your birthday literally cycles throughout the week, just like your birthday cycles throughout the week, throughout every year. It's the same according to the Gregorian calendar. That's how the Sabbath should shift. It really should, and it shifts according to the moon cycle, because the moon is given to count the months and the days of the week and stuff, right? So we can calculate the feasts. And if you're not familiar with it, it seems confusing, but it's really not, now that I understand it, so that's why I said all that. And I brought this up just to say that Aliyah was absolutely right yesterday, and I actually gave the day of the Passover. So he was right, and I was wrong in regards, because we were talking about the first day of the month. So I actually gave the wrong day, and he gave the right day, but I was thinking about Passover and not the first day of the month. So that's why I brought all this up, and I wanted to say that. But I don't even think he's here today, but hopefully he'll get the message. He'll get the memo if he come back and watch it today. Okay, y'all, I'm done running my mouth for that. Okay. Oh, I know you said it before, but where do you find the Shema? The Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Read the whole chapter of Deuteronomy chapter 6, because everything is there, Trina. But we pull out the main meat of it, and we just do that. Okay, how do you know which month has 2 days of darkness versus 1 day? Okay, so Dana, if we go outside, sometimes it's hard to see because it just may be cloudy, right? And that's how you get the short months and the long months, meaning it extends by 1 day. It's either 30 days or 31 days, right? But the moon always has a light cycle of 20, 28, 29 days, right? According to the Book of Enoch, which if we follow and we actually go outside and observe over the days and the weeks and the months, we'll kind of pick up the pattern. So I've been doing it for like the last 3 years, and that's where the app comes in, where I kind of look at it and I observe the trend, the data over the months and stuff. And I'm trying to get it to where I can see it. But when it's cloudy outside, it's really hard to see. So sometimes when it's cloudy and I can't see, I have to look at that app. I'm like, okay, here. Okay, so if it's saying the new moon is going to be dark 2 days till we see the sliver of light. And you know that the moon rises with the sun. So at the beginning of every new month, that's when we can see the moon and in the sky during the day with the sun, until she becomes full. And as the weeks progress or the days progress, in the beginning of the month, she'll begin rising later and later with the sun, until by the time we get to the 14th day of the month, she is rising as it's getting dark, so she's there to light up the night with all her glory, and then she begins to diminish. So yeah, it's Dana, you just gotta actually literally observe it outside, or you can use the app. Like I said, the moon app is really good, because, and I only say that because as I've been observing physically outside with my own eyes, going out the house and actually looking and tracking, it shows the truth of what I see in the sky. I've looked at a couple, but this one I found to be the most accurate based on what's actually in the sky. So but yeah, I don't quite understand the pattern. I know it doesn't change, but I haven't got it down quite yet. Okay, so this month is dark, the moon is dark 2 days, then it's then it's one day dark before we see the light. Like, I haven't 100% got that pattern down yet, but that's something I'm looking at so we can accurately predict or foresee it. Okay. I'm trying to determine how you pick the date for Passover if the days change. Okay, so here's how I understood it, right? Okay, so you remember, and I'm not, you was in, was it our group or was it the family group? Okay, remember the first group we were a part of on Group Me, right, before it was canceled? And remember how I that's when it was a couple years ago, and I started looking through the Book of Enoch at the seasons. And I'm just telling you how I understood it. Although I understand the seasons, in the Book of Enoch, it teaches you what you will actually see happening in the earth during different seasons, whereby you can kind of you can place yourself in like the right month, so to speak, if that makes sense, right? So if we see the ground, like some of the things, if the ground is starting to loosen up, you will start to see earthworms come through the ground, right? So that's how we know spring is upon us. And so when you start seeing that, you know, it's probably starting to rain a little more. So these are the things you're starting to see. And I got super excited because although I know spring is coming up clearly, you know, based on the Gregorian calendar, as I actually began to pay attention, it began to be super exciting. And when I saw the earthworm, I was like, oh snap, the worm is coming up. I know, I was like, girl, what is wrong with you? But I was excited because now I'm observing, I'm actually seeing that what the Book of Enoch was saying is actually true. Like, it blows my mind. Some people say, oh, the Book of Enoch is garbage. Get out of here. We don't even read that. It's not even part of the Bible. I'm like, have you read it? Like, have you read it? And that's what I do to determine a lot of times if what I'm reading is truth or false. But some things may be truth, but it may not be my experience yet to verify that, yes, this is true. And in those cases, I'll just set it aside. I won't completely discard it, but it could be me that's lacking information. You know, so that's something I realized as I've been growing over the last couple of years. Okay, I done come out the church hardcore, so I know I'm lacking information. I have some faulty information in a lot of places. So to kind of stop my foolishness with everything, oh, that's witchcraft, I just can't, okay, it could be something that I'm not understanding. I could have been taught wrong, so I take it and I'll set aside. I won't put my mouth against it, so to speak. But until I find the information to help me understand it, I'll just set it aside. Okay, so how to determine, to pick the date for Passover if the days change. Remember, and see, and this is one of, I'm glad you asked that question, because you know how I also say it's because of these days, the dark days of the new moon, where it's the new moon because she's completely diminished of her light. That's what the Book of Enoch says. It says when she become completely diminished of her light, it's called the new moon. Well, it's the new moon, but when she gets that little sliver of light, it's like new moon day. We can literally call it new moon day. Although we know by pattern, okay, it's the new moon, we can't see it, but we can't call out the new moon until we see the new moon. Like, you can't call something that's not there. So that's why it's incumbent upon us to wait till we see some light. Okay, boom, new moon, right? And you know to be watching based on a cycle of the moon waning and becoming dark, so you know you're coming upon it. So if you're watching for it, you're already watching for it, and you know this is the time. Okay, you go out, you just check, and you know, if you know that the moon, first part of the month, rises with the sun, you see it in the day, you can actually go out there and see, and you can watch. But also the phases. Oh my gosh, y'all, the phases of the moon. If you're facing, and this is how I learned, if you're facing the east, if you're facing the direction where the sun rises, it's almost like looking at the face of a clock. And if you understand the phases of the moon, you can tell where on that clock where we are. Like, guys, when you understand it, it'll blow your mind. What I'm gonna do, there is this gentleman, it's like a 10, I don't even think the video is 10 minutes, you know, and it's a guy and he explains it. I'm gonna put it in here. It's a black guy. The video is old. I'm like, wait, they understood this back then? But I'm gonna put it in there. It's a really short video and he explains it in a way where it's so easy. So when I go out there now, I literally, you know how you have a watch, a regular manual analog clock with the short hand and the long hand? That's how he explains it to you. Based on the phases of the moon. So you have, like, the moon is in 4 quarters. You got the new moon. You got the first quarter. The new moon is completely black. And of course, we call it new moon. We see the first sliver. But the new moon is completely black. That's like the first phase. It's starting over. Then you have the first quarter. The first quarter, the moon is half full of light. And when she's half full of light, it's like from the 12 through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she'll be light on the right side, right? So that's how you know you're at the because you don't want to get screwed up, because you got 2 phases where the moon is half full, when she's getting big and when she's getting dark, right? So based on, if you look at it the way you're looking at a clock, the long hand and short hand clockwise, right? So clockwise from 12 all the way down, and you go clockwise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here, if she's light on this side from 1 to the 6, you know you're still at the beginning of the month. That's quarter 1, and that's called waxing. So she's waxing big. Think about the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. So waxing, she's getting bigger, right? And so when it's half light on the right side, you know we're at the first half of the month. And the moon is always full when she, as she's waxing, getting big. When she's full, it's always full on the 14th day. You know, so that's how it took me some months as I was following Dana. I'm trying to take you through the process where I began to truly understand it and watch for it, right? So, and I know when the moon is full, it's always like the 14th, and even on the 15th day, I know I say sometimes like the 15th day is always full because it still looks completely full. But if you look close enough, you will see that she's dark. You can still see the disc, even when the moon is like half full and she's not completely full. On a really clear day, and even on a really clear night, you can still see the entire disc. You can still see the entire disc of the moon. Even if she may be half full of light this side, you can still see the complete round disc, right? So that's how I began to understand. And I understand every time we have a full moon, when it's 100% full, and the moon app is really good about showing it because it shows the percentage of the moon, whether she's 95% full or 100% full. Now, I noticed, yeah, you've seen that, right? That you'll notice on the 14th day, she becomes like 100% full towards the evening, right? And I've noticed this trend. I've been watching this. So say it's the 14th day, and we clearly know it's going to be a new moon because we seen it the night before. She almost full. But I started paying attention to the times, and I noticed every month towards the evening time, that's when the full moon is at 100%.
Mommy.
And that's when yes, baby girl. And that's when they got to do that. Yeah, they got to do their homework, but not today. I'm getting them a break today. But that's why YAHUAH tells us to begin celebrating Passover at sundown, right? So if you have the information from Enoch that tells us how to recognize the days of the month, it should be common knowledge that the full moon, complete full moon, is the 14th day of the month. And as she begins to lose some of her light, then we go to the 15th day. Enoch even tells us how much she diminishes in light every single day, all the way to like the 29th day, and if it's the longer month, to the 30th day, right? So that's I know that was a little bit long explanation, but that's how I learned to see it by actually going and doing it. Stuck. Some things I'm still not quite clear on, but this part I know I got down because I've been watching it, and I'm actually seeing it's like I'm in a lab. I'm like, oh snap. And it blows my mind. I'm like, the Book of Enoch is like really true. That's why I swear I'll swear to anyone by the Book of Enoch, especially when it comes to the comes to explaining this, chapters like 72 through 82, but even some past that, like the whole luminaries portion, I would swear to anybody by that, because I've observed it over the last 3 years, going in here and tracking. I even write it down in here. I felt this should be coming up, and sometimes I even guess, okay, is this one of the short dark periods? Is it going to be like 2 days dark or 1 day dark? And I still ain't got that down 100%, because some months I'm wrong. It's like I say, okay, this is going to be the short month, but then it's 2 days dark before I see the light. So I guess it's just trial and error, but also I'm kind of using, because I don't have like a physical teacher here for real teaching me and pointing out stuff. I have to go searching and using the Book of Enoch based on what I see in the sky, observe with my own eyes, and also using the Moon app. Okay, here, and I'm watching. So whoever designed this app, they completely have this down. They have it down. They understand it to a T. So I'm still working on that, but it's really cool. And what I've even began to do, and I'm gonna read the blessing in a second, y'all. What I've even begun to do is I'm looking now at the sun and how it's moving throughout the sky, and I began to start paying attention when the sun is in certain places. We notice we hear it, but I didn't start really paying attention to it until a few weeks ago. I had been so busy trying to calculate the moon that I'm forgetting that it's not forgetting, but I wasn't also tracking the sun, because it's not just a lunar calendar, it's a solar lunar. Solar being sun, lunar being moon. YAHUAH conducts it with it all in place, and the stars are fixed in their place. The stars, wherever the stars are, they are fixed in their place. If there is a star that we see that's moving, y'all know what that is, because it tells us. And I found, and there's a section back here, I'll even post that too so y'all can see it. Stars are fixed. They don't move out of their place. They are set in the firmament. Book of Enoch tells us that. And even if you go outside on clear nights, if you pay attention to the stars in the sky, you will see them. They're always set in their place. Like they don't move. They're fixed there, right? Okay. So the stars that we see moving, and even some like the meteors and stuff, y'all know what that is. I know this might be hard for some people, but those moving stars, or shooting stars is the proper term for it in our day, is actually demons that they're trying to penetrate the firmament to get back into one of the heavenlies that they were kicked out of. And I'll put it in here, but it's them falling, it like and hitting the ground. And it even says that when they hit the ground, they set fields on fire. Some of them are big enough where they destroy cities and set cities on fire. If you could actually go through here and look at pull up some YouTube videos or some news things, and people say, oh, a shooting star, or hit something, boom, the ground was on fire here. I seen a couple of small ones that landed in some people's yard. It's out, don't touch that. What is that? And they called the news people. The news were there and they showed it. Now that I understand, I was like, oh, this makes sense. So but when you actually begin to track stuff, it doesn't become so like, oh yeah, that's fairy tale. It's like, oh snap, this might really be true. And I'm like, what place, like what is this place that we are really living at? Like seriously, I have those thoughts. So yeah, with that being said, you can actually see the sun. I noticed when the sun moves, she casts shadows with the trees. Now I'm seeing like when the sun is right over here over my house, it's like 3 trees. Like right here, it's like 2 in the front and like 1 in the back right here. And when the tree is like right here, I start to check my clock. It's always the exact time for like the last 2 weeks that I've been tracking it. It's always like 11:45. And then it moves over a little bit here where I can stand in my living room and just look out my window. If the sun is coming down like right here at the corner of the top of my house, it's 12:45. I'm like, oh snap. And so I begin to do it. And as it moved over, if the sun is between this tree right here, it's about 1:30. And when it moves over here to this section of trees between these two, and I'm using the trees as like marking points, like actual clock, it's it's like 3:45. Then I move over here, it's like 4:20. So I actually been kind of like tracking that. So I was like, wait a minute. So then I began to think about how I was looking at the sky with the moon and looking at like a clock. I'm like, wait a minute. If we look at the regular manual clock with the actual like shorthand and longhand based on what I was seeing, I was like, I can literally picture a manual clock in the sky as the sun goes and it casts shadows. It is literally on those times that my watch says. I'm like, oh snap. And whoever designed watches, they understood that, because it's like precisely. That's how sometimes when people can like look in the sky, if they're not out in like an open field, or if you are out in an open field, when the sun is directly above your head, it's high noon. It's always noon, right? So I'm starting to think about a lot of things that I learned and heard over the years. I'm like, wait a minute, this is really a clock, and they've taken what's in the sky and we wear it on our hands ignorantly and not even knowing that this is what it is. We got this because somebody understood the clock in the sky. And guys, this really excites me, and I could talk about it all day long, because I've actually, like I said, I've been out here, I feel like a scientist or a kid in the lab, actually out here testing these theories, and I found them to be true. And I'm super excited, and I could talk all day, and so, but guys, we're way past our time. We're already an hour and a half. Yes, they tell the time, so, but it's super, super interesting. So I'll share all those things that I said. So if you want to come back, it'll be in the description box on YouTube, and also in the description box on Facebook. And I'll also post it and pin it in the comment section at the top. And also I just put it at the next comment in Facebook as well. So if you want to go back and see or download the apps and actually go out there and check and look at it yourself, hey, it's there. So, all right, y'all. So I get super excited about this, because I'm like, oh snap, like this is the stuff we should have been taught in school, because like, shucks, the kids, I don't know. I don't know. It gives you a sense of clarity and understanding, and that's how I think why some people are like natural navigators. Like my sister Leisha, like I still need a map. Like say if we travel somewhere, I need the map. Cut on the GPS. She said, that's gonna mess me up. She said, I know where I'm going. Even if she don't quite, she will cut on her GPS or whatever. But she's a natural navigator, and she may not be able to. And as I told her, I was like, well, how do you know that? She said, I don't know. I don't know. I can just like feel it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if she here. She might be at work. She here. She's still here. But there's a few times even when I say, I don't need that. I can tell you, hold on, give me a second. And she just, I don't know, but I know it's something within her that she doesn't quite know how to explain yet, but she's like this natural navigator where it's, and she's always right about it. So I'm like, okay, I don't quite know how that works, but give me the map, cut on the GPS. Or if I think we can go through a dead zone and the GPS won't go out, I'll always print out a copy as a backup, because I don't like to be lost. I don't like to be somewhere where I don't know what's going on, because that's not good, because I don't want to end up dead before my time. That's just the way I thought. I don't like pain. I'm going to look, and then I'm going to double check. We need a backup plan before we set off here on this adventure to make sure we can pull back to safety, especially since I got a whole retinue with me of 18 kids. I need to make sure this journey going to be safe all the way through and coming back. That's just how I am. Maybe it's just motherly instincts or whatever, but I don't like being somewhere that I don't know what's going on, which is probably why this is really interesting me and has caught my attention over the years. Sorry, y'all, I'm done. Okay, yeah, Leisha, and she here. She said, I see for those, you see it on Facebook, but for those on YouTube, she said, I see a map in my head, and she said, and my intuition. So the map that she sees in her head and her intuition, it always leads her. It's a natural navigation on the inside of her. So, all right, y'all. So, with that being said, okay, Mama said, yep, she was our navigator when we traveled when she was younger. Yep. So, but yeah, it's wild. It really is. So I just sit, now that I'm older and I'm doing this, I just think about things that we were ignorant of as we were growing up, because we didn't understand it. But now a lot of things are making sense And it's like, wait a minute. So this has been in play all this time, and we couldn't see it because we didn't understand it. Just like a lot of things that's happening in the world and behind the scenes and stuff, we don't quite understand because we're missing information, because we don't truly understand what's going on, right? So, but it's exciting. It's good to me all day long, y'all. But I'm done running my mouth. Let's go ahead and do this blessing. Otherwise, I'll be here talking y'all all day, right? And some of y'all might actually have to go to work today. So, pop this up. All right, y'all. Did I tell you, Trina? Yeah, I told you. The Shema, or Hear, O Israel, that's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. I started verse 3, but read the whole chapter of Deuteronomy chapter 6. Right? Okay, so the blessing, y'all know.
Superheroes?
Superheroes?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't say superheroes.
What were you saying?
I was talking about the blessing. Okay, so the blessing, y'all know, is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That is it, and we are done for today. Bruce. Down. Right here. Press that.
Unhold it.
All right, press that button. Finish.
Unhold it.
All right. Bye, y'all.